All right, welcome back everybody to another episode of the Hunting Beast Report. This is a bonus episode. Many of you were expecting this tonight, myself included. Woke up to a text message from the Hunting Beast himself, and he's like, "Hey, you wanna do a show tonight?" And typically, this is the night that I do my shows, the Midwest Racks and Rods Outdoor Show. But it just so happens that I was taking tonight off, and I said, well, yeah, all right, I can make that happen. And especially after he told me who we were going to have back on, and we can go ahead and bring him on right now. Mr. Rick Labbe. Welcome back, buddy.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Rick.
Howdy. Yeah, good to be back.
Absolutely. And you sound a lot better this time. We worked through a few kinks in that. What it really comes down to, I guess, is this, my software is just not super compatible with MacBooks, I guess. And
yeah, either that or my software is not compatible.
yeah, one of the two. But we got you on. You sound good this time. We're not having to. For those of you that caught our last episode, we thought we might have to do a phone call in type thing, but we made it work, and we did your top 5. What was that? Maybe about 2 months ago. It was shortly after we got back from Huntstock, I believe. So it might have been towards the end of August. Does that sound right, Dan?
Yeah. Right. A lot's happened since then.
Yeah, absolutely. Just 2 months, right? But we're in the meat and potatoes of hunting season. And Rick, you've been busy. For those of you that have been following them,
I mean, busy.
Yeah. You do a really good job, as does Dan, with keeping everybody up to date with your social media posts and videos and video clips and things like that you do. You really kind of take us all along for the ride, and that's really fantastic. Outside of the fact that you have your
really
YouTube
appreciate
channel.
Everybody watching to my channel and subscribing to my channel and watching all my videos. So I just want to say that.
Which is Rick Labbe's East to West Adventures. For those of you that aren't subscribing, go and check it out.
Yeah, and also my Facebook channel.
Right. Yeah, like I said, you've been doing a really good job of keeping us up to date and really sharing all that content and your adventures as they kind of unfold in front of you, and then and of course in front of us as well. But speaking of one of those adventures, what have you been up to so far this season?
Well, on September 5th, everybody probably knows that's been watching, I headed to Wyoming for my bow hunt for elk. I drew an archery tag out there, and I didn't kill a bull the first week. I had quite a few encounters with bull that, of course, with a bow, it's pretty tough, but I had a lot of encounters with that bull, and I think I put a little bit too much pressure on him, so I left him alone, and I actually went to Colorado. I drew a Colorado tag, went and hunted Colorado for a week, and had a really incredible hunt in Colorado. I saw 47 bulls in a 5-day period, and there was one giant that I was after and never got a shot at him. And that was a muzzleloader hunt, but we had a couple of days that I heard over 100 bugles. I mean, that's a phenomenal elk hunting day. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
And so I didn't kill an elk in Colorado. One of my buddies, Jake Stoner, killed an elk, and Don, the other friend of mine that was with me, he had a pretty close encounter with a big bull. And I had multiple encounters, but with a muzzleloader, never really got in that kill zone range, and had a heck of a hunt though, and great people we hunted with there at Medicine Bow Outfitters. Great group. I'll probably go back for sure. So then I drove home to Wyoming that next morning, and on the drive back, I was thinking about where I was going to hunt that next day when I got back there, and which was the last day of bow season. So I had that big 6x6. I'd had several encounters and kind of thought it over in my head. That's what I usually do when I'm going from one hunt to the next, is thinking about where I'm going to hunt and how I'm going to, approach it. And especially if I've already hunted there the week prior or something like that. And make a long story short, I ended up walking in there, and I had to make a big loop around the mountain to come into the wind, because otherwise I'd have been hunting with the wind, and I know I would have blown him out of there. So I made like a 3.5 mile hike in, hunted into the wind, and I got into his bedroom area where I'd seen him before. And I knew he'd be pretty shy on bugling, because once you put a little bit of pressure on those big bulls, they get call shy. And
Sure.
so I had 3 different cow calls with me, which I generally bring multiple cow calls. And the reason I do that, I think it sounds like a group of cows rather than just one call over and over. It kind of changes the perspective of the whole thing. And I let out 3 different cow calls right in a row, and within probably 15 seconds, he bugled at me. He was off to my right, so I immediately there was an old dead blow down stump in front of me, which made really good cover. And I looked ahead and I said, "Yeah, there's a good opening right there." So I thought he'd come up through that opening, and that's exactly what he did. So I got in behind that stump, waited probably 4 minutes, and then pretty soon I was first coming up over the hill, and he just came sneaking in, and he stepped into that opening, and I had already ranged him. It was 31 yards, and I poked an arrow right through him.
Awesome.
So
Nice.
yeah, he turned and bolted right back to where he came from. He ran, and he got downhill a little bit, and I could still see him, and he just stood there. So I thought, oh, he's done right there. I made a really good shot on him, and pretty soon I turned back, so I was putting another arrow in. I turned back and he was gone. And I said, well, he's not going to go far. So I worked my way down there once I got that arrow in, and didn't see him. And so I said, well, I'll get over there and find his blood trail. And he had a heck of a blood trail. So I started following his blood trail, and he actually went, I don't know, probably 70 yards. And I got down, and I see him standing there behind a jack pine. And I tried to sneak around to get another arrow in him. And he caught a glimpse of me, but he wasn't looking too good. He tried to walk, and I got him all on video. I had my GoPro on my shoulder, and so he tried to walk a little bit, and then he just stopped, and I mewed at him with my mouth, and when I did that, he turned right broadside, and I poked another arrow in him, and he made one lunge there, went about 30 yards, and he was done. And
Awesome.
beautiful 6x6.
Where was the first shot? Was it fatal?
Yeah, it would have been fatal. I one lunged him, though. It was on enough of an angle that it got him in one lung, and didn't quite get his other lung. So, he was in rough shape, but wasn't enough to really kill him right dead. Yeah, the second shot, I liver shot him, and that was it. He was done.
When you when you said you did 3 different calls for cow calls, right?
Right.
Are you trying to make it seem like one cow is making all 3 of those? Or are you like kind of
No,
changing direction to make it seem like 3 different cows?
yeah, I'm trying to make it sound like a group of cows.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
there's multiple cows. And I found that over the years that one cow call, sometimes a bull is very shy to that, especially once they've been called or hunted, and they won't come into it.
Sure.
Whereas multiple calls, even a bugle, like I've got a couple of bugles, and I actually got a mouth call too. So sometimes I'll hit my big bugle and just grunt with it instead of a bugle.
Okay.
So a grunt or a chuckle instead of a full blown out bugle, which a lot of times during the daytime, especially like after 8 o'clock in the morning, bulls really don't bugle until almost dark. You'll hardly ever hear a full blown out bugle, but they'll grunt a lot. Like you get close to a big bull he's tending his herd and he's always trying to kind of round them and keep them in check while they're feeding. And he'll just kind of move around and he'll grunt. And you won't hear that unless you're within like 150 yards. You get beyond that, and it's a very low vocal grunt, or sometimes just a chuckle.
Okay.
So I use that quite a bit, especially the last 4 or 5 years. Like I've elk hunted, I think it's 21 years this year, and
Wow.
so I've killed. No, it's 20 years this year. 20 years this year. I've killed 20 bulls in 20 years, which
Wow.
I feels pretty damn good for a whitetail hunter from the Northeast, But
I'd say so.
yeah, but I just love elk hunting. I live to elk hunt. I think I like it more than I do whitetail hunting.
Yeah. Wow.
When I'm out there doing it, I do. So,
Don't say that too loud to the beasts listening to the show here, because they want to hear about your wall of whitetails.
yeah, I know.
That's what they love the most. But
I love whitetail hunting, but
yeah,
elk hunting is like turkey hunting on steroids.
sure.
Really, because they talk back to you, they bugle at you,
Mm-hmm.
Which is about the only big game North American big game animal that really does that.
Yeah, I could see
A
that.
moose
Yeah,
calls at you, but it's not like an elk.
sure.
Yeah, it'll make your hair stand up on the back of your neck.
Yeah.
So,
Speaking of calls, somebody had chimed in here, and I had it saved.
Billy Davis.
Yes, but he commented a couple times here. Billy Davis chimed in that he got your grunt call. Oh, here we go.
yeah.
And he says it
Phenomenal
sounds
call.
amazing, which I got mine from you as well too. Which thanks again for that.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be using it this season. In fact, I just saw you did a reel recently. I think I met it.
There you go, Dan.
On my desk.
Where I think it must be the guy who makes them, right? From Nor'easter Game Calls,
Yeah,
right?
Mark Buzzle. Yeah.
Okay. Where he was talking about like manipulating the reed.
Right. So we've got an instructional video on my YouTube channel. Anybody that wants to know how to use that call correctly, or I should say, wants to figure out there's a lot of different ways to use it.
Sure.
And you can actually run it all the way to the top and it sounds identical to the can. Anybody that had the old can.
Yeah, the old Primos can calls.
Yeah, and how to use the tube and all that. And then if you run it all the way down, that's a mature buck grunt. And I killed 3 bucks over 200 pounds in a 7-day period in 3 different states last fall. And I killed every one of those bucks on the very first day. Saskatchewan, Nebraska, and Maine. And I can't say, you just got to use it. It's phenomenal call. It's the most realistic call I've ever picked up. And it's got a lot of different sounds, and the more you practice with it, the better you get with it. I'm pretty good with it.
You're the first person I ever heard talk about tracking with a grunt call and stopping just short of where you think you're going to jump. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, that's a new tactic of mine that I've really picked up in the last 5 years, and I wish I'd learned it, 25 years ago. And I grunted 5 different bucks last fall in Maine, and after I tagged out, I took some other guys and people that asked me, And so you think about it, you're tracking a buck on snow and you're looking for those signs of when he's going to slow down and lay down. And I'm looking for, that buck's kind of in a straight line. And then all of a sudden he starts meandering, he's meandering. Well, when they stop meandering and weaving back and forth, they're looking for a place to lay down when that happens. And or if they stop and feed, like you look over and they've eaten a bunch of fiddlehead ferns, or they'll eat moss off the top of a granite boulder sometimes. So sometimes it's not real obvious. You got to pay attention. Like if a buck walks up to a blowdown and it's full of old man's beard and he picks it clean, well, that's a dead telltale sign. Yeah, he's going to lay down. He just fed like crazy. But you look for those other signs as he's going along, and all of a sudden he starts meandering, like I said, and he's looking for a spot to lay down that he feels comfortable. So when that happens, I'm just gonna, I like to stand next to a tree. It kind of breaks up my outline when I do it, but I'll just walk up to next to a tree and I'll grunt, and I'll stand still for 15 minutes. And if that buck's in earshot, I almost guarantee you he's gonna get up and he's gonna come check you out. He's gonna walk to you. And there was 3 bucks in the last couple of years that if I was tracking and I slowed down and I knew they were there, but I didn't know where, and so I was just sneaking that last 100 yards, and it took me 30 minutes to an hour, one step at a time, and then all of a sudden that buck just wheels out of his bed. Well, when you're a tracker, when that buck wheels out of his bed, you see that flash of antlers and you're shooting, right? Because you're looking for that buck you're tracking. You're on his track. You got a great big track. But in Maine, we don't always get good racks. But we get a lot of 120-inch deer that have heavy bodies up in the mountains. And I, just like anybody, I like a nice rack when I shoot a buck. As I've gotten older, I like to shoot a deer with better horns and be more selective.
I like a nice rack too. I mean,
yeah.
And I think most of us do.
Yeah, I think all of us do, right? So, but anyway,
you set me up there. I couldn't resist. It's the inner 10-year-old in me is just.
So, I think we'd all be shooting a buck if it's running. If we've been tracking that buck all day long and he wheels out of his bed and you get that flash of antlers, you're going to shoot, and then you're going to get up there and you say, damn, that's really not a buck I wanted to shoot. But you shot him and you tag him and you're happy with it, but you're not 100% happy. And I've had that happen a lot up in northern Maine with some of the bucks we have. And there was 3 bucks in the last 2 years that I grunted to me, that I got to stand there, watch that buck come in with the grunt call, and I went, I'm going to pass him. So I let those 3 bucks go. I went back to the truck, jumped in the truck, and, spent the rest of the day or the next day searching for a different buck. And I've killed a couple of slammers that I would have been tagged out, I think, on a different deer. So in that aspect, a grunt call to me is a huge tool on calling the deer in and judging that deer. And like I said, the other thing is, when you call them to you, you change the whole game. Now you're making a more ethical shot, a place shot rather than a running shot. So I think it's a tool that every tracker needs.
Rick, on the Hunt 365 asked if you do. I think he's asking if you ever do this bow hunting, any tracking, anything like that, bow hunting, or is this strictly, as we like to call them, nug hunting?
Yeah. So what was the question?
Like, is this? Do you ever use any of these tactics, or do you ever do any tracking in that with a bow or anything? Have you ever done that before?
I've never tracked with a compound bow. I've tracked with a crossbow, And and I know a lot of guys aren't fans of crossbow, but 5 years ago I tore my left shoulder snowmobiling in Wyoming, and I was a bow hunter my entire life. Actually, it would have been 51 years this year since I was 10 years old. But I tore my left shoulder, so I was done drawing a compound bow when that happened. I can't draw even a 50-pound bow now. So I switched over to crossbow, and I actually love hunting with a crossbow. And I'll tell you why. It extends my range out, for one thing, and I just feel that a crossbow is so lethal. I've killed 3 bull elk, 2 muleys, and a whitetail with my crossbow, and I've never lost an animal with it. My wife killed Tuesday night, killed a nice 9-pointer with her
Yeah.
crossbow.
In the
And,
pouring rain.
In the pouring rain at
Mhm.
71 yards.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
yeah, and so yeah, I really respect the crossbow, and if it's a legal method to hunt, I feel it's a great tool. So, and I'd have been done bow hunting if it wasn't for crossbows. I'd have been out of the game. So, the crossbow gave me a whole extra season that I would have lost with my torn shoulder.
I understand that completely. I'm in the almost the exact same boat. Snowmobile accident.
Yeah.
Hit a tree head on at 50 miles an hour. Wrapped myself around it.
Wow.
For me, it's not my draw shoulder. It's where I hold up. Right. So
Yeah.
if I can't hold, I tore the axillary nerve. So my brain can't send the signal to my arm to raise this arm up any higher than this. And there's
Oh,
once I hold it out, there's nothing there,
right.
as far as weight. If I'm here, I can do this.
Yeah.
Dan, I got to be careful, right? I don't want to
Yeah.
make too much of a gesture.
Right.
And it's unfortunate. So for me, I'm not a big fan of the crossbow. Like I don't like I miss shooting the compound. And I've even started
Yeah,
this
I
last year
actually
learning
do
to
too. Right.
practicing shooting left-handed because I have the strength to draw. It's more of the out here, my brace arm.
Yeah.
But it's a tool. It, like you said, it keeps you in the game.
Rick's
And
probably missing the joke going on.
yeah,
We got
I was just
we
gonna
got
say you
our
should probably fill him in, Dan.
we got our show taken down, and I had to appeal to get it back on because I showed a bear get shot with a gun on live. And now I just said the word.
Yeah.
So we're not supposed to say the G word either. So with a nug, it's a backwards G. So
That's where the nug thing comes.
we actually got the show taken down live right in the middle of the show. They told us,
Wow.
and then I had to appeal it.
It's about the live aspect of it. It's not the video side of it. It's because I had shown clips of Dan's bear hunt and or parts of that during a live feed. And
Oh, yeah.
I understand, like, the thought process was always, or the thinking, lack of education, I guess, is what YouTube probably would call it, that you couldn't kill an animal live. But I thought, well, what's the difference? This video's already up. I'm just using a clip of it live. It's not like the animal's being killed live or anything. But it
Right.
kind of goes above and beyond. No nugs allowed. No parts of it are
Apparently, we
allowed
can
on.
show a picture like if you had your elk and you want to
Right.
show it, and we put a picture up. If you had a nug laying against it,
Yeah.
they take the panel down.
Oh,
Unbelievable.
yeah. Huh.
That's
That's crazy.
right.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't said we can't use the word. We're just kind of being a little tongue in cheek with
At
it here.
first,
But
they were going to suspend me for 3 months and make me take a course on how to be a better human in order to get the show back up.
Wow.
90
Crazy.
days.
That's right.
Show this stuff on regular video. You just can't show it on live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
So, anyways, that's the joke that we've been kind of. When I said I don't even know if I'm allowed to do this.
Oh, right. Yeah. So we'll talk about my wife's buck with a crossbow. So
Yeah.
the other night, my grandson came over. He's 3 years old, Gavin, And I got two grandsons, Lincoln and Gavin. They're both 3 years old. Both daughters had a son almost the same time. And so both of them are over to my house all the time. They're constantly, in Gramps' game room, looking at all my deer heads, checking out all the bears and bobcats and everything else in there. And, we talk about hunting and all that all the time. So this was the first time I've taken Gavin out hunting. And so I didn't really know how he was going to react. And, my daughter was like, well, he's only 3, Dad, so probably better not shoot anything with him with the bow. I said, okay. So we bought the bow anyway, and I'm thinking, well, if a really big buck shows up, I might have to shoot him, but we'll see what happens. And so I'm sitting in the blind with him, and his eyes were as big as a coffee cup the whole time because it was the first time he's ever been hunting. And I'm watching him and kind of seeing his reactions, and a bunch of turkeys came down through the field, and he's looking at him. I says, you see those turkeys? See that big Tom? And he's shaking his head. Yeah. And I said, you want to shoot one of those turkeys? He looks at me. He goes, yeah. So I'm thinking, oh, he wants to hunt, right? So I said, well, we're not going to shoot one of those turkeys. We're going to wait for deer. Then pretty soon there's 4 does in the field, and he's watching those does, and one of them was pretty close to blind. And I said, Gavin, you see those does? He goes, yeah. And he was standing up then. I had a little chair in there for him, and it was one of those see-through mesh blinds, right? I had a couple pieces pulled down so I could shoot an arrow if I needed to. So the doe was pretty close. I said, what do you think? We ought to shoot one of those does? And he looks at me. Yeah. I said, well, we better wait for a buck. And so we're watching the does, and then pretty soon this 9-point buck, which is the same buck my wife killed, he shows up in the field. I said, hey, Gavin, I said, look at that buck. And man, you should have seen his eyes perk up then. It was like inspirational for me to see him. And it makes you realize that, being my own grandson and seeing the reaction when that buck came out, and I just thought to myself, he's going to be a hunter. There's no question. And I said, you think we should shoot that buck? And he's like, yeah, we should shoot him, Gramps. And so I didn't pick the bow up, and he was out there about 100 yards. And so that buck worked his way over the edge of the field, and he disappeared in some tall grass and in the alders. And then pretty soon he came back out. And he's watching him, and he's looking at the bow and looking at me and looking at the bow like, are you going to shoot him, Gramps? And I leaned over. I said, I think we should save that buck for Grammy. I said, you think we should? And he goes, yeah, we should really, Gramps. He said, we should save that for Grammy. So I had it on video. So we didn't shoot that buck. We watched him, and then my wife shot him 2 nights later with a bow. And so we called, the grandkids up, and we took him over, showed it to him. But makes you realize that, when kids are that young and all the reactions, what it's really all about, and how we got to where we are, and the importance of teaching these kids everything and teaching them ethics and all that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of Grammy, I heard a rumor that you shot a bear in 1984. There's a picture of it in the newspaper, and that's how you met your wife?
It is, yeah. So today, this woman, when I was in Wyoming, that lives a couple towns over, she sends a picture of me that from 1984 in the newspaper, the Morning Sentinel, and she said, do you have a copy of this, Rick? And I said, no, I don't. But I said, I remember that. And she says, yeah. She goes, I saved this and laminated it from way back then. And she had this picture. And her name was Lois Davis. And she goes, "Would you like to have it?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So she brought it by the house today and dropped it off, and I took a screenshot of it and put it on Facebook. And I'm pretty young back then. I was probably 19. And anyway, I met my wife, so that picture got posted that day in the newspaper, and I met my wife that night, and she comes up to me. I was actually out to one of the bars dancing, and she comes up. She goes, "Aren't you that guy that was in the newspaper today?" And I kind of perked up and smiled and said, "Yeah, that was me." And that was it. We started dating each other. From then on, I knew she was the one.
You got for the newspaper article.
Yeah, most women aren't interested in hunting. So when she come up and congratulated me on that bear and asked me about it, I was pursuing her pretty hard. Let's say. Now we fish and hunt together every day. Her and I do.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
We
that's
raised
great.
2 daughters, and we got 4 grandkids now. And her and I fish and hunt together. She bow hunts. She she hunts out west with me. She goes to Wyoming, elk hunts, and stays at camp with us, and we have a good time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what
How
else
many
is
How many
right
deer have you shot over your lifetime? I saw a picture of you. There's got to be 50 or 75 deer in that mounted.
on that wall? Yeah, on your cover
Yeah.
photo.
How many?
Oh
How many
yeah,
deer?
on my cover photo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't see all the buckheads laying on the floor. I haven't had time. I did that buck bash this summer, and I had half of them down because I took them out for the buck bash for everybody to see. And I said, "Man, well, I got them out there. I ought to do another picture. I haven't done one in years, and I'm getting older." And so I took them all out, and then I left for Wyoming, and they were out in my hot rod garage, I call it, where we had the buck bash. This great big garage I emptied out, and so they're all been out there laying on the floor. I think there's 87 mounts.
Wow.
Got a few.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's impressive.
it was, yeah, it was fun, hanging them all up and taking them down. I got to get them all back up. I'm cleaning them all, which is overdue too.
Yeah, that's probably a week's worth of work just cleaning them all.
Holy cow! I know.
We got a hunt together coming up.
Yeah,
In Massachusetts.
looking forward to that. Me, Dan, Laney Benoit, and there's a few other guys coming too. So, and there's 2 people that want to hunt with us that we're
I hunted
taking.
with Lucas Benoit in at bear camp with Dan Wagner.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, he was in camp. Yeah, he hung out with us the whole time. Yeah.
Laney did?
No, not Lanny.
Lucas.
Oh, Lucas. Yeah, Lucas is a great guy. He's coming too. That's right.
Yeah, he's a quiet guy, but really smart and hard
Lucas
worker.
is a heck of a hunter.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody follows him, but that kid can hunt. Yeah,
He's quiet and humble, so you don't hear much from him.
right.
You get around that kid and you see him. He's a killer.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, absolutely.
So what are we going to expect on that hunt? You hunted that area before? Or?
Yeah, so it's we're hunting the Berkshire Mountains in Massachusetts. I hunted it 1 or 2 years. I can't really remember. It's been a few years since I've been there. Probably 4 years ago. But it's public land, kind of all walk-in areas. No motor access, and basically you park it wherever you can find access. There's 2 or 3 trailheads, and you got these huge mountain areas, might be multiple mountains, and you hike in, and hopefully we got some snow and pick up a buck track, or either that or we still hunt.
Mm-hmm.
But They shoot some nice deer down there. Really good racks. Better than Maine actually on their racks.
I think it's a pretty quick hunt, ain't it? Like 3 days or something.
Yeah, it's only a 3-day hunt. Yeah,
Should be interesting.
we'll do all right though. I'm pretty sure, we'll kill some deer.
If you're there, at least one will get killed.
I don't know about that. I didn't kill a deer last time I went down there.
Number 90 on the wall.
Yeah, I missed a 10-pointer with my muzzle loader, and I had peep sights. I've since switched it over to a red dot, and that deer was probably out there like 130 yards, 150 yards, and I could only see his head from like the white patch on his neck, and the peep sight covered him up completely. So I had to actually drop the peep sight below him, line it up, and then bring it back up twice, and then I just pulled the trigger when it got to that white patch on his neck, and I shot right between his antlers and hit the tree dead center behind him. So number 90 lived. He's still running.
What other hunts do you have between now and then?
Well, I got a lot of them. As I get older, I'm trying to book as many as I can and do as much as I can.
Sure.
I leave November 7th, I think, for Saskatchewan. And me and a friend of mine, Pat, are going to Saskatchewan for the week. Then I'm flying on Friday, so I'm only hunting 4.5 days in Saskatchewan. I'm flying to Nebraska, and I'm hunting down there with my buddy Jake for the week. And I think Nebraska's a 8 or 10-day season. So I drew Nebraska and I drew South Dakota, which I'm hunting Sand Hills, and then South Dakota, the southern part of the state. So I'm only like an hour's drive. So as soon as I tag out Nebraska, I'm driving up and hunt South Dakota. And then I go from there back here to Maine, and I hunt Maine for last week of rifle and first week of muzzleloader. So if I tag out in Maine that last week of rifle, then I'm going to shoot over to New Hampshire because that's their rifle season the first week of December. Right. So, but that's if I tag out. If I haven't tagged out yet, I'll just stay hunting in Maine, try to kill a big buck on snow. Then I drew Iowa, so I go to Iowa to hunt for a week, and then I go back to Nebraska I drew a mule deer tag, and Nancy goes with me on that hunt. And then from there, I go to Massachusetts with Dan and Lanny. And then I got one more hunt coming up. If I draw, that draw is coming up for Arizona archery.
Oh,
So,
you're busy.
yeah, I think there's seven or eight more hunts I got
I
in
was
a row.
going to say, I was doing the math in my head. I'm like, you could be adding another 7-8 bucks to that collection
be
there
tired.
just this season yet. Wow, that's incredible.
Last year I kind of made up. I said, okay, I'm not mounting any more deer. I'm done, right? And I killed a 203-inch buck, which you guys saw at Huntstock, that big one.
Yeah, the
Yep.
Nebraska one.
Yep.
Yeah. So I had to mount that one, and then I come home and then my Saskatchewan deal was a 160-inch 10-pointer, a beauty. So I said, well, I probably ought to mount that one. Then I come home, and the day I get home, I shoot a almost 150-inch buck in Maine that was over to my family camp that my grandfather left to me, and I'd been hunting him for 3 years, and I said, well, yeah, I probably ought to mount that one. So mounted all three of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
How many have you taken tracking?
Who am I taking?
How many deer have you taken tracking?
Oh, how many have I taken? Oh,
Approximately.
I would say in the 40s, probably.
Wow.
I've killed one almost every year in Maine, my whole life tracking. Probably only killed half a dozen out of a tree stand my entire life. So I've killed a deer, I think, every single year in Maine my whole life. I can't remember a year when I might not have gotten a deer.
Hmm.
Back in my younger days, running my business, I worked a lot, so I didn't get as much time, so I wasn't as fussy on, killing great big bucks. But
Yeah.
the last 10 years, I try to kill a, really big buck every year, and been pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Wow.
It all relies on snow. If we get good conditions and good snow, and which in the last 10 years we really haven't got a lot of snow. Sometimes it happens the last week of the season, and a lot of deer have been shot, and so it dwindles down, so it makes it tougher, but it's challenging.
Rick, Tony Thorson asks, Rick, have you ever tracked a buck without snow?
Yep, I have, but
Can you
I'm
tell
not
us
going to lie to you, it's not easy.
I would
And
imagine.
yeah, you can't really go along it. And I would say, if you've got if you've had a big rain and you got wet leaves in the hardwoods, they're fairly easy to track with. If you find a really big deer, you got a big foot on him, he's sinking a lot. They're easy to track. Once that deer gets into the green growth, like in under the firs, it's it's tough. You just basically might get lucky if you run into him, but that's kind of where the track ends once you get the firs and you run out of the leaves. It get in the needles and all that is tough. So, I've shot a couple on bare ground tracking them, but like I said, I was at the right end of the track and didn't have very far to go and jumped them.
Does that usually turn more into like still hunting at that time frame?
And yeah, it's a lot slower pace, more still hunting. I tracked a buck a few years ago. Um, this is a good story. So I tracked a buck a few years ago, and um, I got into these. There's a real steep hardwood ridge, and there were giant boulders all over it. And I ran into this buck track up on the top of the ridge, and he was headed downhill. And I said, "Geez, that's a really good buck right there." I knew he was over 200 pounds just the way he was sinking and the stance on his track. So I started following him. He was kind of weaving down through the rocks, and he got down onto this bench where it kind of benched off, and then he hooked a hard right. So I'm kind of just poking along on his track, and all of a sudden, boom, he jumps up between these two boulders, and I pulled up and fired at him. And I got over there, and he was down and stuff, and I had hit him right between the shoulders, but his whole bottom jaw was broken and almost falling off. It was just hanging down. So I said, "Holy cow!" I said, "This deer's in pretty rough shape." And I looked him over and I said, "I didn't hit him in the jaw. Somebody else must have." So I started dressing this deer out, and pretty soon I looked up and a guy says, "Oh, you got him." And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I shot that deer earlier." And he goes, "I couldn't find it." And I said, "Well, he jumped out of the rocks." I said, "Geez, I didn't mean to shoot him on you." And I said, "I think he was going to die. If you want him, I don't want no hard feelings or nothing." I said, "Go ahead and take him." And he's like, "No, no, you finished him off." He said, "He's your buck." He said, "I'm just glad I got to see him and found him," because he says, I lost the blood trail. And I said, "Geez, I'd never seen a drop of blood." But I kind of think that buck had been laying there a while, and because it had rained all morning, it probably washed out all the blood, and I still had his tracks in the leaves. So I ended up dragging that buck out of there, and his whole bottom jaw was broke with the guy had hit him in the bottom jaw. So he would have died eventually. Yeah.
What would you say your most memorable track is?
Oh,
I mean, there's got to be one that kind of sticks out. I mean, I'm sure you have plenty of, And I think we even talked about it a little bit with your top 5.
Yeah,
That, but I don't know if
I think probably one of my most memorable one was that Slewfoot buck. I called Slewfoot, where he crossed that river 3 times in that same day trying to get away from me, and I kept crossing, almost to my waist, and then I'd catch up to him on the other side, and I I think he thought, a, a big buck crosses a river to get away from you, and I think they learned that from coyotes and predators, wolves, coyotes, whatever, because they're not gonna generally swim, right? So, especially in cold weather in the wintertime, because a deer's hair is hollow and a coyote's hair is not, and a wolf's hair is not. So they freeze up. So I think they just, when a deer crosses a river like that, they just go find another one.
sure.
And every time that deer crossed that river that day, he just slowed up and basically waited for me, thinking he's not going to come after me. And I caught him every single time, and that's how I ended up shooting him and killing him. So I had in the video there, I videoed myself tracking him with the GoPro and stuff, and I crossed the river, and I was sitting on a log, and I dumped, like a half a gallon of water out of my boots every time, and wrung out my socks, put them back on, and away I went on the track back after him. And people were like, "You're crazy." And I'm like, "Well, that's what you got to do to
Right.
stay after him."
If there's one guy that understands where you're coming from, it's the guy in the lower left hand of the screen right there.
Yeah.
Boy, 2 peas in a pot, I tell you what.
Never give up.
BBD, beast boot dump.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, you do whatever it takes.
When you look at a very large, vast area and you're going to go tracking, what makes you choose one area over another?
Oh, I would say, going to a place I've never been, it would be looking at the terrain, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like mountainous areas. Over the years, I found that big bucks love mountains. They love to be high. They like to go high. Most of the big buck tracks I take when I find them, and I like my method. I kind of learned from a kid watching Lanny Benoit, and Lanny was my inspiration growing up. And I'm lucky today. He's a very good friend of mine and whatnot, and I appreciate him a lot. But I learned from logging roads. I've always driven logging roads. I locate a big buck. Sometimes I'll always locate a backup too. You always got to have a backup buck, because the buck you're on may get killed, he may disappear, and you got to have a backup. But I drive logging roads and up in the North Country, and like I said, I'll locate a buck that I think is 220 pounds to 250 pound range. Once I find him, I don't use any cameras up there at all, so I never know what he's got for horns until I've actually seen him on the hoof or I got him on the ground. And but 90% of those bucks, when you get on the track, they go uphill, up into those ridges, and they go lay down. So I love mountaintops, and probably better than swamps or anything. I love mountaintops, and it's better shooting, when you jump a buck in the mountaintops, because generally you're in the hardwoods, or I can run. If I jump a buck, I can run to an opening or something and real quick and get a shot as he's going down through the hardwoods. So, but as far as hunting in Maine, like big vast pieces of woods, I've hunted Maine my whole life, so I have spots where I know I can always find a big buck track. And Dan, once you've located an area that's got a big buck in it, that's kind of forever. Generational. Year after year, you can go back there and you're going to find a big buck every single year.
Right.
Unless somebody went in and clear cut the area or something and really messed it up for a while. But
So with that said, I would imagine that you learn areas that a certain bucks and that you don't harvest, and you keep going after them until you do.
oh, absolutely, yeah.
So you might have a couple of years history with a certain buck, right?
So everybody asked me this. They said, "Rick, you got your buck picked out?" And I have never had a buck picked out up north that I've ever gone and tracked. I basically do my scouting the first snowstorm every year.
Mm-hmm.
And I've already got 2 bucks in mind this year that I didn't kill last year, but I found their tracks, and I know they're there at the end of the season. And we had, a really easy winter last year, so I know those bucks are there. I just got to go up and locate them and find them.
Sure.
And and it'll be the same thing this next year. If I kill a big buck, I'll go up and still scout around, or I'll hunt with somebody else. And somebody's always asking me to go, one of the family, or somebody, and I'll locate another big 1 or 2 or 3 big bucks. So, right, that's kind of how I do it. Not a lot of intensive scouting, really.
Wow. So I believe you've killed bucks in how many different states and provinces?
18
18 and 7.
states. Yeah, and every province except let's see, from Alberta all the way east, every province
Mm.
in Canada. Yeah, I've hunted there. I think it'll be like 37 years this year with my dad and stuff. Dad didn't go last year, but he and I hunted Saskatchewan, Alberta, Manitoba, Quebec, New Brunswick, every year our whole life. We've gone on a trip.
Okay. Of those 18 plus 7, do you have a favorite?
Iowa,
Iowa?
probably my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa's not what it used to be now, but man, back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
Iowa was like a deer hunting mecca.
Still pretty damn good in the right places.
Yeah. I could go to Iowa back in the early 2000s and hunt 5 days and count 100 bucks in
Yeah.
5 days, and I'm talking 130 to, I don't know, 200-inch bucks. I'd see a 200-incher every year I went. It
In
was
Iowa.
crazy.
I remember
Now
my first
it's
year in Iowa in the 2000s, and even hunting public land, I must have saw 50 or 60 Pope and Youngs on that trip. It was unbelievable.
yeah,
I
it was
don't have hunts like that now, like I
no.
did back then, like you're saying, but you still have pretty damn good hunts there.
Oh
For,
yeah, yeah.
any
I
place.
always get an opportunity. If you're hunting the right land in Iowa, you're gonna kill at least 150-inch deer, at least. I try to set my minimum goals now at 160, and I usually get an opportunity if I don't kill a 160. We try to come home. We try to come home successful, but it's really not always about being successful. It's more about the hunt as we get older.
Mm-hmm.
You feel that way?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting more about worrying about my friends and my family and things like
Yeah.
that, deer and stuff. And I mean, I like the chase a lot, and I feel a little disappointed when I shoot one. As you probably know, I ended up shooting a buck that I thought was a bigger buck this year, and I
You
got like
did?
a
Yeah.
120-inch deer with my bow, and
Yeah.
so now I'm tagged out in Wisconsin, and it's killing me because I just want to be out chasing. I want to be in
Right.
that mindset of the way I hunt, of trying to do the chess match and stuff. It's driving me crazy. I just can't wait to get out of the state and go back after them.
Right.
Because that itchy finger gets you.
Yeah. I know. It was, like elk hunting out west. There's always 3 or 4 of my friends that draw a tag every year and come out to my camp, and everybody I know wants to come out and experience elk hunting. So I said, yeah, put in some points and you get drawn, come stay at my camp.
Yeah.
And I had a great time this year, just hunting with those guys and calling for them and, showing them how to hunt elk. And there was, let's see, 4 out of 5 of them shot bulls.
Nice.
Yeah. Barry's 78 this year, and he killed a bull.
Nice.
And Yeah, he hikes, I don't know, probably 6 or 8 miles a day. Pretty good
Wow.
for 78 years old at, 9,000, 10,000 feet.
Oh yeah. Rick, we got a couple questions here for you, if you don't mind. Edward chimes in. Is it better to start tracking first light, or does it really matter?
It really doesn't matter. Um, I've got on tracks as late as 3 o'clock in the afternoon and killed bucks just before dark. That really weren't that far ahead of me. Sometimes we'll be searching and you find a fresh buck that got out of his bed and crossed the tote road, and there's a smoking hot slammer's track there, and
Sure.
jump on him and catch up with him. And I've gone on bucks at daylight before and tracked them all day long and never caught up with them. So
Yeah, I was going to say, what's your longest track that you were successful? I guess, anyways. How long?
the longest track that I was successful was the cell tower buck.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
we
Sean
talked about
Chapman,
that.
and I tracked him every day that I could on snow. It was probably 6 or 8 days total the whole season when there was no snow, that it had snowed and then melted or turned across before we got another storm. And I tracked that buck the entire season and shot him the last day. Yeah.
Wow. Got another question here from Matthew. What's your biggest buck in Alberta?
My biggest buck came from Alberta, weighed 318 dressed.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. He was a toad.
And mind you guys, Rick and these Northeast guys they're really big on the size of the deer.
Weight.
Right? I mean, you guys get you get buck patches, right?
Right. So
can you explain
here
a
in
little
the
bit about
Northeast, I was raised up, and I'm not so much on the weight anymore. I'm more of a antler guy.
A rack guy. I get it.
Yeah, but when a trophy deer in Maine to everybody in Maine is to make the big buck club at 200 pounds.
Yeah.
And we get a patch and all that. So that's big here in Maine, weighing your deer and hitting that 200-pound mark. And to tell you the truth, some of those bucks that weigh, 230, 240 only have 110, 120-inch rack because everything goes to their body and nothing goes to the antlers because mainly, they're way up north in the mountains. They've had tough winters. Winter lasts another month longer up there towards Jackman. Yeah, so that's
about
kind of how
survival.
you
when I was
got
at Huntstock, there was a guy that was telling me about his hunting. And he told me this whole story about this buck, all excited. And then at the end, he said, "But when I got it, it only weighed 198." He goes, "Just 2 pounds." And he goes, and he was like upset about that. And I was like, "You got a great buck. What are you talking about?" And it reminded me of guys out here that'll be like, "I got this buck and it scored 124 and I didn't make Pope and Young." Or it's like, I don't know, just take something away. I mean, you can have a great deer that's a huge buck that's old or whatever that just doesn't weigh that much, or you can get one that doesn't score that much.
We lost you for a second. Looks like you're back though.
Lost you guys.
Yeah, you're back though. It's all good.
I just kept mumbling.
No, it's interesting
I got no
that
sound.
you say that. You got no sound. Can you hear us?
Maybe.
Oh, I guess he can hear us because we can hear him.
I think his earbuds went out.
It's possible. Let me just.
Guys, hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I can't hear you. Yep.
Hang on, bear with us just for a second, guys. I'm gonna text.
How about now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
No. I can see you talking, but No sound.
Can he unplug the earbuds? Will that?
Yeah, I think that's what he needs to do. All right. Bear with us just a second here. Why is this not coming up?
Got any ideas, Scott?
Yeah, unplug the earplug.
Yeah.
Unplug it out of your phone. Is he using a phone? I don't know where the phone went. Lost it. There it is. You hear us now?
Yeah. Yeah, I unplugged it. Nope. How about now?
Can you hear us?
Huh. It did this before we did want it.
This is what it is, I guess.
Yeah. How about now?
I can hear you.
No. I did. I unplugged them and then I'm back in now.
Maybe he's got to click.
You there? No.
Yeah. Can you hear us?
No.
The only thing left would be the settings. You know. Did you
Jim
check the
chimed in.
settings?
He's like, I can hear Rick and Dan just fine.
Maybe
I had myself.
Hold on just a minute.
When
Sure.
it went down, the audio might have went out.
Right.
So I mean, he could hit the gear thing and turn the speakers back on or audio, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna just cut back over here real quick. We'll give him a second here.
Yeah.
Heck, Dan, turn it off. I'll turn it over to you here real quick while I talk to Rick.
Lost all the sound.
You put the earbuds in so you can hear them.
Nancy, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, can you? You're not plugged in, Rick.
What's that? Yeah, I am.
What? Where's it? Oh, it's on his phone. He called you. Okay, I did the mic. Turned it off,
Tried it.
and you can't hear.
Just all that was
He's
it.
getting in the IT department.
You guys went offline for a minute. You disappeared and then came back.
Yeah, no, actually, yeah, it was you. Yeah, you disappeared.
Huh. Yeah.
Can you do it without the
No. Tried it.
earbud? Try talking to him.
About now.
Do you guys see
How
the
about
little
now?
deer thing?
Little deer.
Yeah, you might
You
have turned
mean
your audio on. Check the mute. No, I don't hear nobody.
And then hop back on?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
let's
try
try it.
Yep.
All right, I got you.
Can you hear me?
Yep,
All right, we're back in business.
we're back. Yeah, little technical difficulty.
You'll have that from time to time.
Yeah. Sorry about that, you guys.
Oh,
That was
that's
John
okay.
on here. I was just like Homer Simpson with my jaw hanging open. Like,
Yeah, just so everybody knows, I'm kind of spotty here, and I had to do it with my phone. It wouldn't work on the computer, and I got to hold a charger on the back of the phone so I don't lose all my battery. So,
William said, reminds me of the old Verizon commercials. Can you hear me now?
yeah, right.
All right. What were we talking about?
Oh, tracking.
Tracking. I think we had some questions here too. What specifically were we talking about though? We had asked a question. Oh, we were talking about the weights of bucks
Right.
and then the buck patches. And Dan was saying, you talked to a guy that killed one that only weighed 198 pounds, and he was pretty
Right.
disappointed by that.
Yeah,
yeah.
and I talked to a ton of people, and they've killed some phenomenal bucks, had, great racks,
Yeah.
140, 150, 160-inch deer, and they go, well, he only weighed 195. And I said, well, when did you kill him? Well, the third, fourth week of the season. I said, well, that deer, that's the same deer that would have weighed, 210, 215, 220 the first week of the season. And
Sure.
yeah, and
My biggest rack buck scored 187, and
nice. Wow.
that buck weighed about 180 pounds. He actually
Yep.
had a pretty small track too.
Yep.
And I've got quite a few bucks over 200 pounds.
Yeah.
Obviously, I prize that buck more. And I mean, it was an older buck, just didn't weigh as much. And like you said, it was shot later in the
Later
season.
in the season, they're worn down more.
Really heavy ones I've shot have
Yeah.
been real early in the season, and I think they would have lost a lot of that weight.
Absolutely. We figured they lose 15% in about a 3-week period, 15% of their weight.
No kidding.
So a 200-pound buck on opening day, by the end of Thanksgiving week, that deer's between 170 and 180 pounds.
Yeah.
And you look at some of those bucks, and you can tell they're run down, and you can count, the ribs on their backbone once you've shot them, and you don't see that. You never see that the first week of the season on a big buck. You never can count the ribs on their backbone. So,
Sure.
and I think some bucks run harder than others. They chase harder and just don't eat. They just breed and breed and breed. So some lose more weight than others do.
So Dan, your largest buck, what did that one weigh again?
I don't know, because it bottomed out at 300-pound scale.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Another nice one.
And what time of the year was that for you?
That was right at the beginning of October.
Okay, so early season yet. Yeah.
Yeah. I killed one weighed 303 in Saskatchewan one year. That was the very first week of the season. And
So you got 2 over 300.
2 over 300, yeah. And then I killed that 318 in Alberta.
Yeah.
That was the second week of the season. But that Alberta buck, and as you know, you get some deer and they're a short deer, especially when you hang them up. And the other deer, it seems like they're a foot longer. They're like genetically a different
Yes.
species. And you can always tell that once you've shot a buck and you walk up to it and you go, oh, wow, he's really a long deer. He's just longer body, a little bit longer legs, everything. Those are the bucks that are going to weigh like 250, 260, 270 in Maine. And they generally come from up north. You never see those really long bucks down this way where I live. You have to travel up to the mountains.
It's interesting you say that, because that buck that I was just talking about that bottomed out the 300-pound scale,
Yeah.
buck I shot, I think it's 5 years ago now, in the marsh that was really heavy. We didn't weigh it, but
Yeah.
4 guys picking it up on poles couldn't hold it up and marsh grass and carry it. It
Wow.
was a heavy buck, but
Heck of a deer.
we never
Yeah.
did weigh it. It was really hot out, and it took us 8 hours to get it out of the swamp. So I never did weigh it. But that was shot about a mile from that other buck, and like you said, they're both really long. The
Yeah.
legs really tall.
Genetics.
They're just a bigger bodied deer all the way around. Everything, even the skulls look bigger.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. When you shoot one of those bucks, you walk up to them and, you know, they're just genetically a different deer. You're like, wow,
you know,
when you walk up to them. And I think like that Alberta buck, so the climate in Alberta, it was 20 below zero the second week of the season when I killed that 318 pounder. And I was in, I was 300 miles north of Edmonton. I can't remember the name of the town now, but they were clear cutting every year, like another 50 miles. Every year they'd go 50 more miles, 50 more miles. This is probably 18, 20 years ago when I killed that buck. And so we were at the furthest point, my dad and I, where they were clear cutting, hunting, and the deer were basically migrating in Alberta every year, a little further, a little further. And it's such a cold climate up there that only the toughest animals survive. So, you know, it's genetically it's a genetic thing with those big deer up there. That's what survived those tough winters, 40 below zero for 4 or 5 weeks straight. Whereas those smaller body deer just never made it. So, I think that the genetics, you just get, the further north you go, you just have that bigger genetic in any animal because they got to survive the cold.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you had mentioned earlier too, like where some of them, where some of these larger bucks in that they're not. It's not in the antlers. It's all in the body.
Yeah.
Are you saying in terms of like their mineral intake and their nutrition and stuff? It's all for putting fat on.
Yeah, and I
Extra
think minerals.
protein to survive the tougher winters.
Yeah, and right. They, I think their body just automatically knows that they have to put that weight on to survive that winter
Mm-hmm.
because they've either had a really hard winter in the past, and
yeah.
so I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this in Maine, and I never realized this till an old guy told me one year. This was probably 20 years ago, and he goes, "Every year you know, because in Maine there's always a couple of bucks every year that weigh in like 270, 285, 290, somewhere in there. There's always two or three." And he said to me, he goes, "Yep, we had a really hard winter last year." He goes, we're going to get a few of them, 270, 290 pound deer this year." He goes, "They always come after a hard winter the year before." So it's like those big bucks had a really hard winter and they might have almost died. So they knew coming into summer that they just had to put the weight on to get through that next year.
Sure.
So that stuck in my head, always made sense.
I had a Saskatchewan guide tell me one time. He said he wanted me to come up and hunt with him, and he was going to give me a hunt to come hunt with him.
Yep.
I never did do it, but he was telling me that he wouldn't tell his clients this, but for me, because he wanted me to shoot a real big buck or whatever, he said, "I want you to come on a good spring." He goes, the winters we have will make a difference of 30 to 40% on rack size the next year. He goes, he taped all of his bucks that his clients got because that's what sold hunts. He'd say he shot this many of that class or whatever. And he said there's a 30 to 40% reduction in the size of the antlers
On a tough winter.
Yeah, on a tough winter year.
Yep.
He goes, just don't have the food early enough to start developing those antlers early. And I found that interesting because I never really even thought about that.
Yeah, that is true. And then another thing, one of the guides in Saskatchewan told us one is one fall when Dad and I went and they had a drought, and we were kind of worried about how it was going to be that hunting season because they had a wicked drought all summer. And he says, no, it's just the opposite of what you think. He goes, when you have a drought, he goes, all the minerals in all these little ponds and water holes are actually showing. He said, so the deer can get in there, and he goes, lick those minerals. Where you have a really wet year, he goes, they don't get the minerals. So he goes, you really got better antler growth than you do in a wet year. Because, and when you think about it, most people think, oh, we had a wet spring, so there's a ton of food this year, so they're going to have really good racks. And he said it was just the opposite of that.
Mm.
And we like our camp that year. There was probably 8 hunters in there that week, and all our bucks averaged in the 160s. We had like a 164 average or something. We shot a couple of 180s, and it was one of the best years we ever had.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever?
Is it-
I was going to ask you, Dan. You ever seen a hybrid whitetail that's a cross between a muley and a whitetail?
I have not. We've gotten some racks where it kind of looks that way, but I'm too far east for whitetails.
Yeah.
You know? I mean,
So that
for mule deer.
they had muleys up there in Saskatchewan in the southern part of the state, and of course, we always had to hunt the forest, which was just where the the farmland ends. Being a non-resident, you have to hunt the forest, and this guy we hunted with, he was like right on the fringe of the farmland and the forest, right there. And that 303-pound buck I killed, he's got split G2s on both sides, and his rack looks a lot like a mule deer.
Mm.
And of course, most big mature muley bucks will weigh 350 to 400 pounds dressed. They're a bigger body weight than a whitetail. And I think that deer might have been a crossbreed, a hybrid they call.
Yeah, I've heard that mule deer and whitetails can breed together.
Yeah, and it only works one way. I think the mule deer buck will breed the whitetail doe, but it doesn't work the other way.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, Rick, you there?
Yeah,
Yeah. And you can hear us?
I can. Lost you for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're the one that dropped off this time, Scott.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
We were
That's
talking.
odd.
Huh.
That is very odd. But yeah, go ahead, guys, as you were. Sorry about that.
The
Yeah.
life of
So,
life.
where you hunting this fall, Dan? You going to Kansas?
I am going to Kansas. I do have a challenge that I can't say where it's at coming up, and I'm going to gun hunt Wisconsin. Then I'm going to do a challenge that I'm not going to discuss.
Yeah.
And then out by you guys, and then I'll probably do like a January challenge around my house. I'm going to get some groups together and do the stuff out here with a bow hunt, and that should be interesting. So I'm not going to have as much hunting as you, but I'm going to be running every weekend somewheres. We do.
Right.
I do have an extra tag for Wisconsin on a military base. You can on military bases you can buy a second tag. So
nice. Yeah.
So I could bow hunt there, but that's a 2-hour drive. But I could do that in an afternoon if I really want to.
Yeah. Yeah. Another hunt I just thought of is if I get maybe tagged out in Maine early. A friend of mine invited me to Ohio. He's got a camp down there and actually owns a pretty big chunk of property.
For bow or for gun?
Gun.
Oh.
So that would be either muzzleloader or
Shotgun. Don't they do
straight.
shotgun?
Yeah, straight wall. Now you can use straight wall cartridge.
Yeah, Ohio's got some pretty big bucks, and it's if the guy's got a big
Yeah.
private property, you probably should take him up on that.
Yeah, he sent me a picture today of a 180-incher walk, and he was like an 8x6.
Yeah,
So
there's some
pretty nice buck.
You get on a large property in Ohio that's private, and if it's managed correctly, there should be a lot of big bucks running around.
Big bucks there. Yeah.
So I don't know what happened to Scott. We lost him.
Yeah. He disappeared. Yeah, I heard from quite a few people Iowa's got a lot of EHD this year, so that makes me a little nervous about
Ohio
going
does.
to Iowa this year.
Indiana has a ton of it. I mean, over Josh is, he can't hardly find a deer. They're
Wow.
finding dead deer everywhere, and he's got cameras out all over the place. No pictures, no nothing. He's hardly seeing anything.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, and he had a
Yeah.
low deer density to begin with. But when I went to Iowa, what 2 seasons ago, they had a
Yep.
bad EHD thing hit where I was going. I found dead bucks all over the place.
Wow.
But I still saw plenty of big bucks. And
You
plenty of
did.
doe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
They just got such a number of deer that it didn't impact as much as it would some
Yeah.
places.
Yeah. The old heydays of Iowa, man, it was nothing to see 40, 50 deer a day back in, the late 90s, early 2000s when I started going there. And then they started getting EHD like the late 2008 or 9, 10, somewhere in there. And they had a huge die off, and they just seemed like they never came back like they used to be. Still big bucks, but the numbers have never been what they were.
Yeah. Scott just texted me, said he lost internet at his house.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
glad I'm not the
No,
only
we're
one
having
with
some luck
technical
here, eh?
difficulties.
Because I lost the internet just before I came on. That's why I got on with you guys late.
Yeah.
Just tell him to use his phone to get back on. Yeah, we never have problems like this. It's always when you're on.
Yeah. Main guy. Hopefully we're a lot luckier hunting, Dan, than we are
Right, right. It'd
on
be
the
interesting to
internet.
see what
Yeah.
happens in Massachusetts. I think that same time frame could have some antlers shedding. Do you think?
Yeah.
More-
Actually, that happened the last time I was there, which was 4 years ago. That buck I missed, the next day, I know I tracked that exact same buck. He come right down in to the same area where I picked his track up the day before. He had the same gait, same size track, same everything. He was walking on his dew claws. You could tell he was an older deer. I get on his track that morning, and that was muzzleloader season. I followed him about probably half a mile, and he came into a bunch of deer. They were all laid down, and he stood up, and I said, "Wow, that's a big doe." And I got over there, and after he ran off, and his tracks followed right to his bed, and he had shed both horns.
Yeah.
Yep.
They
Yep.
have a hunt in Wisconsin here that just annoys the hell out of me. They have what they call a holiday hunt.
Yep.
They have it for Christmas and New Year's, and it's like a 10-day hunt. And it's supposed to be for does only, and they have like a gun season for does.
Yeah. And they end up shooting a bunch of bucks.
Slaughter the shed bucks. They just slaughter them. Yeah.
And some of those biggest deer lose their antlers early.
Correct. Yep.
Yep.
So, talking to a biologist, that's a friend of mine that works for the DNR.
Yep.
He can't say it publicly, but they don't want him to say it. But 39% of the does shot are bucks, and shed antlered bucks.
Wow.
And then there's
Crazy.
I forget what the percentage is, but there's a high percentage of them are button bucks, and it ends up that more bucks are shot in those hunts than does.
Well,
Yeah, they just don't want you to know it. They don't care what they kill, just as long as they kill the numbers. They're trying to get the numbers down.
that's all it is.
They don't want hunters to know that that's what's going on. They want them to think it's does. But
Yeah, it's too bad because
crazy,
that's not really deer management.
right? Our management isn't as good as some other places because our management is run by political parties. The political party that's in place runs the DNR, so they make the decisions.
Right.
And,
The legislature basically makes decisions. Yeah. DNI just has to enforce them.
yeah, but the DNR that they put in position every time our governor changes,
Yeah.
whoever gets into office, whichever side it is, will get rid of the appointees and put new appointees in there. So there'll be people that don't even really, in a lot of cases, can't even do the job. You know what? They're
Right.
just pointed in there, and it just sucks.
I think
I'd
that
like
happens
to
a
see
lot in a lot of places lately.
Yeah, I would like to see the DNR be a voted position, the head of the DNR, where
Yeah.
the people vote for that. Whether you're a hunter, not a hunter, or whatever, anybody who has stakes in it could vote.
Same
in it.
thing in Maine. The head of Fish and Game is appointed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't like that.
So basically, the governor, whoever the new governor is, appoints who they want for the commissioner, whether they're outdoorsman or hunter or whatnot. Yeah, and I agree with you. That should be a voted in position.
I don't know if he's coming back on. Maybe we should just wrap this up.
Then we lost him.
Yeah, we lost. He says he lost internet, so he can't get on. So,
Well, anyway, it was a good podcast, Dan.
yeah, it was when we had it going, right? Maybe I can
Yeah.
get in there and edit out this part where it went down for a little while, and but I think we had some good discussion. I think we're entertaining for most of the people listening, and the people who
Yeah.
will listen.
We
I
got
appreciate
Youth Day starts tomorrow morning here in Maine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got Friday and Saturday this year. They gave the kids 2 days, and I got a kid I'm taking tomorrow night. He's a contractor friend of mine's grandson, so I'm gonna go take him tomorrow see if he can shoot a deer.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah.
So
Well,
let's
anyway, I
wrap up and
appreciate it.
we'll catch up with you in Massachusetts.
Sounds good, buddy.
Okay, thanks for coming on.
Yep. Till then, shoot straight.
Okay, you too.
Okay. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Bye.